Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Mess. So Tarek and a continuing series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, and it's been 48 hours since we talked about the Nintendo 64 work in progress core from Robert or FPGAZumSpass, and you know that means there's been new cores available since then. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter testing video, only at about 13 minutes because I got a lot longer one planned for later on this week. So get your game request tests down in the comments below so I know what you want to see. Probably hit more of a 20-minute one there. But in recent cores, Ridge Racer 64 has seen a lot of improvements, and this is an awesome pivot from the PlayStation versions over to the Nintendo 64. Definitely plays and looks a lot different than you're familiar with if you came over on the PlayStation 1. This is a game that I constantly retest because a lot of visual improvements have come, and there were still a couple glitches here and there. And the big one was that in the last core revision, none of the taillights on the vehicles looked correct. They had this polygonal mesh structure to them. You could not see the taillights whatsoever. When they were dark, they didn't have that red flare that kind of trails across the screen. That has 100% been fixed in this current core, and if there's anything outstanding on Ridge Racer 64, my eyes cannot spot it. But then again, this is not the Ridge Racer I usually play. I'm definitely on the PlayStation 1 if I'm playing my Ridge Racer. So if you see anything whatsoever that doesn't look correct, definitely let me know down below, because I depend on your eyes to help me spot things as well. But this is a game that barely used to function even 3 months ago. You could get in, it would crash, then it would run at like 2 to 4 frames per second. Now it's smooth, it's fluid, all of the graphics are drawing correctly. We have the taillights on the back, as you'll see there as they go through the tunnel, they light up. And we have the jet flying overhead with the contrails coming off the wing tiplets. Everything just seems to be working here, including what I assume is a frame buffer trick, just like in Mario Kart 64, where you have that second screen drawing on the monitor above. This is just an awesome version of Ridge Racer, and it's one that you guys keep asking me to retest, and I totally get that. It takes the formula from the arcades and the PlayStation 1 releases and brings it over to the Nintendo 64. I definitely feel like some of the drifting is a little bit harder to do here, but in the options menu you can change the drifting mode around, but I've never got 100% comfortable with this game and the Nintendo 64 analog setup. So if I'm missing something, do tell me what I should be doing differently. But as far as the performance on this game is concerned, it is just the Ridge Racer 64 you know and remember. Graphically, frame rate wise, this just seems to be 100% adhering to original hardware, and we are getting pretty close to the point in time in which I might start taking my Nintendo 64 out and checking original hardware performance, but the core needs to mature a little bit more, because what's happening right now is Robert's going through the CPU, the RSP, the RDP, and trying to squash some bugs. People keep asking why TLB isn't here yet, and that is because once that is added in, bug fixing is going to become a lot more arduous and difficult. So the best way to work this is to fix almost all of the bugs that currently exist, and then handle that TLB implementation later on, but I know you're going to ask, so I wanted to answer. Now moving over to Pokemon Stadium 2, you guys have been asking for retests of this one, and this is one that has also seen a bug fix. When you used to get into the Battle Now screen, apparently, and I don't ever remember seeing this, but I saw screenshots on Discord, these characters right here would have issues in their meshes. There'd be some lines across them. That is now just 100% again fixed. And maybe it's something you didn't even realize existed in a core a couple of weeks ago, because if you played this game outside of a few little visual glitches like those lines, you really wouldn't notice that it was doing anything incorrectly. Case in point, I was just recently playing the new RoboCop game on PlayStation 5, and the shadows and all of the reflections in the water were absolutely just glitching out completely. That looked a lot worse than a few lines in a Nintendo 64 game, but because Robert is here for accuracy, those are the type of things he wants to fix. And you guys seem to know, love, and remember Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Stadium 2, because this is one of the most requested retests. But again, I'm going to do a much larger video towards the end of the week, maybe the weekend, so if you have any game that I haven't shown or you want to see revisited, leave it down below so I know, or else I'm going to pick all the games, and you're probably going to be watching too much San Francisco Rush. But I am not having a very good match here in Pokemon Stadium 2. I didn't really play this a ton back in the day, because I've never been the biggest fan of the Pokemon franchise. I know that sounds crazy, but I have been playing a little bit more in the background on my off time, not capturing for videos, and I can definitely understand why people do love this game. It's got charm, it's interesting, and it definitely has some good progression if you're not just going through the quick battle, which I do use when I'm just trying to capture footage. But as far as all of the VI effects, the blur, the dithering, everything on screen, all of the models, the controls, the frame rate, the graphics, it just seems to be perfect, including the sound. So go ahead and listen for like 35 seconds or so, but come back because I got some more fun games to show.
Next Pokemon! Oh, it's Cyndaquil! One Pokemon faces two now. There's the attack! It's super effective! How's that? Ah, that didn't do much. The heated action continues. A flame wheel! Man, that worked perfectly!
It just sounds like Pokemon Stadium 2 should to my ears, but if you hear anything different, leave me that comment down below because I do depend on you guys. Now, another game that's had a lot of requests is going to be Spider-Man, and I remember playing this game back in the day and not enjoying it, but I love that there's that 4 on the building there, definitely Nintendo 64 logo hiding in plain sight. But as I did play this game for retest here on the core, I was actually finding that I was enjoying it more than I remember as a kid. Maybe I just rented this and wasn't into it when I played it, but I hadn't really checked it out since like the 90s, and I've been playing around with it a little bit here, and I will say it's definitely more enjoyable than I remember. I'm not calling it any sort of hidden gem, but I expected to go into this not enjoying the capture time whatsoever, and I was able to find a lot of fun in this game, and there's going to be some extra fun coming up in just a moment. But as far as the performance is concerned here, I did watch a few videos on YouTube just to get a better sense of what this game should be doing, and it seems like it's functioning perfectly fine here on the current core. It is not a game I have in my original cartridge collection, so I may need to pick it up to check it out later on when we do those hardware comparison tests. By getting right into it, it's got a nice visual style, the controls are responsive, the frame rate seems to be pretty accurate to real hardware, which isn't to say that the frame rate's great. This is still the Nintendo 64, it's just to say that the frame rate seems to be adhering to the original hardware spec. And definitely Spider-Man is still a huge thing. There's so many Spider-Man games, and it is fun to see my nephew, who's like 12 years old, just absolutely loves Spider-Man. Seems to be like a timeless franchise. Everyone gets into it, everyone watches it, and everyone plays the games and has fun. I definitely did have some enjoyment here on this game, even if I didn't think it was the best thing ever. But as we get into this building here, it kind of breaks down when you get into interior environments as far as the actual game is concerned. I love scaling the buildings outside and swinging from the webs from building to building, but when you get inside, the camera does tend to fight you just a little bit. But the fun thing is, Spider-Man discovered the internet over here. There's a computer in the office. Spider-Man's not a big computer user, but let's actually find out what he is watching. Seems to be that he's watching the intro to Ridge Racer 64, and that's a really odd thing to watch, Spider-Man. I don't think you should do that, and I don't really think you should do this either. This is kind of awkward, to be honest with you. Spider-Man, what do you have to say for yourself?
Well, I hope they don't mind if I make a quick deposit.
I'm sorry, I had to do that. That came up in the capture, and I just popped into my head as something that was funny. Every once in a while, this per-YouTube personality does break down, and the real me comes out. But moving on to a game that doesn't have any Spider-Man jokes as far as the internet is concerned, a lot of people have been asking for Quake 2, and I will say that it runs, and it runs really well, but just like original hardware, the control style in this game just 100% isn't for me. It looks good, it performs well, the shooting mechanics are there, but all of the analog turning has always felt too fast in this game, so unless I am missing something, tell me down below. I would definitely rather play Quake 2 on a PC, but then again, I'd rather play the original Quake on PC, not Nintendo 64 either. But both of these are really competent ports. They are good ways to play once you get your head wrapped around the actual control mechanics, but for me it just always felt a little bit too loose. But I will say, the graphics, the sound, everything here looks like Quake 2. It is a good time once you get the controls down pat. And I will say that I also love the soundtrack, or more likely the soundscape, so go ahead and listen for a bit, and I'll be right back. I've always enjoyed what the Quake games do on the Nintendo 64, dropping out some soundtrack and making it sound more like a machine is humming in the background. It's a really good environmental effect, and as a soundscape it definitely works, and I don't miss all of the music, especially on the original Quake. The Nine Inch Nails Trent Reznor soundtrack was amazing, but some of those ephemeral sounds you get on the Nintendo 64 really do sell the illusion, because obviously in the world of Quake, Nine Inch Nails is not playing in the background, it is only playing for the game, so in some ways it actually sells a little bit of the creepy horror factor a little bit better. But if you want to play Quake 2 today on the core, I got through to the 3rd mission, everything worked perfectly fine. I don't know if this game has been marked as completable on the spreadsheet yet if anyone's tried, but if you do know, leave me a comment down below and I'll definitely add it. Now, a game that everyone has been asking me to test, and I'm actually surprised because I think this is good but not great, is Stunt Racer. Apparently there's just an absolute ton of nostalgia out there for this game. Now if I'm going to play any sort of over-the-top arcade racing game for the Nintendo 64, it's going to be Rush, Rush 2, Rush 2049, or Beetle Adventure Racing if I want arcade but not super over-the-top. Stunt Racer is not one that usually registers with me as far as my radar is concerned, but tell me down below if you had this game back in the day and why you keep requesting it, because this is definitely the #1 most requested game as of like the last week or two. And I get it in a way. It is totally wacky, it's over the top, it has that super arcadey feel that everyone loves. I've just always thought that the controls in this game are a little bit sloppy and the course design is a little bit too cartoonish. I wish it adhered a little bit more to real life, and I don't know what your real life is like, but unless you're in the pharmaceutical business, you probably don't have giant teddy bears jumping out at you. Or maybe the cars are just tiny Matchbox race cars, and this is actually a normal full-size world that a human would inhabit. I don't know if there's any lore in the game, I didn't pay attention that closely, but that's what I think when I watch this game. But as far as whether or not you can play it on the current core, you 100% absolutely can, and if you love this game, I think you're going to love it here as well. And I do want to play this a little bit more. I think thanks to Andy D for getting this capture. It's the one he did for this video, but I did play this in the background a couple of nights ago at like 11 o'clock at night, just playing around, and while I was intrigued, I was still having handling issues as well, and just not 100% clicking with the game, but I will give it some more time, because it seems like everyone out there really loves it, and trust me, I like to test games that I don't think I'm going to like, because so often I'm talking about hidden gems that most of the internet says is not good, so this channel is all about giving things a fair shake. But as we jump again, getting a better landing that time. The jumps in this game are fun, the track layouts are very interesting, all of these big banks. It is an intriguing game, and I am going to give it that extra chance. But as far as tests are concerned, if you want to play this game today, just grab your MiSTer, make sure you have the most recent core of the making of this video. It's November 6th, and just load it up and give it a shot. You should be totally fine, good to go. I haven't seen any freezing or issues on my end, and there was nothing in the capture that Andy D sent over this week as well. So Stunt Racer, as far as playability is concerned, total 10 out of 10. But the big takeaway is just the headlights and taillights in Ridge Racer 64. It is such a small improvement, but it makes the game seem perfect. And when it comes to talking about the current core, having games that have these little bug fixes in just are representative of where the work is currently at. Like 87-88% of the library boots and is playable. It is now down to fixing those until TLB comes in. And trust me, when that happens, you'll be the first to know about it, because I will make a video day of, so long as that core comes out early enough in the morning for me to do it. But that is the current slate of tests, some new games you haven't seen before, some viewer requests, and some things I just wanted to look at. And again, leave the requests down below in the comments, because I'm going to try to get a 20-25 minute video queued up for maybe Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, but I want to make sure I get a lot of your requests in there. But as far as the core is concerned, there's so many games that you can play, so many games that you can finish, and so many games that you can just have nostalgic fun for if it's been a long time since you played Nintendo 64. But short of that, I am done. Go play some games on the core tonight, and I'll see you guys next time. Spiderman, no. Bye-bye.